all want to make money by doing something we love. If you could turn your hobby into your job, you'd never work a day in your life, right? Welcome to Hobby Hustle, the ultimate podcast where collecting passion and business collide. Now, here's your host, Zach Nigett.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 39 of Hobby Hustle. I'm your host, Zach Nigett, and I'm excited to have you here. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time member of the Hobby Hustle community, welcome. If you love collecting, storytelling, and diving deep in the world of collectibles, you're in the right place. I do have one favor. I'm asking you to help support me with a simple task. Please make sure to like, subscribe, rate the pod with that 5-star review, and of course, share it with your fellow collectors. Finally, if you're watching on YouTube, please drop a comment with your thoughts and suggestions. I always appreciate the feedback. Now let's get into today's episode. Today's guest has fused his love of collecting with his background in technology to build one of the most useful tools in the hobby, Waxstat. Launched in 2022, Waxstat has quickly become the go-to platform for collectors and retailers looking to price compare sealed wax. From hobby boxes to full cases for sports cards, Pokémon, Magic, One Piece, and more. Whether you're chasing the latest release or hunting for deals on older products, Waxstat makes it fast, easy, and free to get you the info you need. With thousands of daily users across their iOS and Android apps, plus Waxstat.com, it's clear this platform is changing the way collectors navigate the sealed product market. You can follow Al on Instagram at WaxstatOfficial or visit Waxstat.com to check out for yourself. I'm honored to welcome a collector, engineer, and successful entrepreneur, Al Teruel, to the show. Al, my friend, how are you, sir?
Zach, Hobby Hustle. Thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, it's an honor to have you. We appreciate you taking time to come on. So, you know, I guess before we sort of dive into everything, you're the man when it comes to sealed products. What's sort of hot or something everyone should keep their eye on right now?
You're too kind. You're too kind. There's a lot of hotness, right? Like, it's funny because there's so many products that just keep on getting dropped each and every week. I wrote some notes here. There's actually a really new product that came out, or that's coming out this week, and
okay.
with the new Topps license of the UFC, and it's a very expensive box. It's 2024 Topps UFC Royalty Hobby Box, and it's a pricey product, so get your wallets ready. It's going to be about $1,000 on up.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So this is like the flawless NT version for UFC.
They're getting there, right? Like
yeah.
that's the like. It's funny because $1,000 used to be those numbers for NT Immaculate Flawless. Now that's kind of like high mid tier now.
Yeah, crazy.
You know, it's crazy, right? You know, hold on to those wallets and the one that I'm a big UFC fan. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, so that's the one that I'm eyeballing. And then the two other ones that I'm kind of keeping a track on, just because they're I call them tentpole type products that the industry seems to watch, and that's 2024 Football Optic, which is coming out next week, and that's not cheap. That's about $880 hobby box.
Crazy.
And hold on to your wallets here. And then 23-24 Flawless Basketball comes out, I think, in a week or two, and that's the big Wemby chase, and early prices are showing that it's about $10K. So
holy cow!
Hey, you know what?
Wemby, that's crazy. And that's Wemby without autos in that.
Without autos. Without autos. Just this face with the jersey that says Spurs and numbers, right?
Yeah.
And serialized numbers.
Wow. That's crazy, man. I mean, obviously he's the draw, right? But you know, with him being injured, it leaves things open for interpretation to see. But I was really encouraged, man. Watching him play has been really fun, and he truly seems like he's got a great head on his shoulder. So hopefully whatever was going on is going to be easily recoverable for next year for him.
100%. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. So so I don't give any advice, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon, and you know he has a chance to be something very, very special for the NBA.
Totally. Well, that's awesome. Well, we'll definitely keep our eye on those products. So, you know, with all my guests, Al, I like to sort of learn more about their collecting origins. So can you tell us a little bit about like what got you started in collecting, or is there like any specific item that you maybe remember?
Really, really good question. So I grew up in the long time ago.
We're both about the same age, man. You're not that long ago.
On a time in the history of time. Mom and dad handed me two things. They handed me a computer, a Commodore 64, and they handed me a box of 1986 Topps baseball wax. And I think they bought it from Costco or
Oh
something
yeah.
along those lines. 36 packs, 36 pieces of gum. And I've been attached at the two ever since. Like many of us, I grew up playing Little League baseball, and growing up in Silicon Valley, I was a San Francisco Giants fan. So, with that said, I was very, very baseball centric, and it really was just a baseball card world back then.
Totally.
In the 80s,
Yeah.
late 80s. So baseball has a very, very special part of my heart. And mom and dad would drive me around Northern California because shops were so few and far between, and we were set collectors. And I say we because it really was a family thing. The three of us, we were set collectors, and we started with Topps, and I got the 86 Topps thing, figured out, and Dwight Gooden, Lenny Dykstra, those Mets of 86, and then 87 comes out, and Will Clark, who still is one of my favorite players, was an 87 person. So with that said, I was a baseball fan, and so 86, 87, those are really, really special to my heart, and set collecting throughout the years. Mom and dad, we would take me all over the place, buy Topps, and then we eventually got into Donruss, Fleer, Score baseball,
Totally. Yep.
Sports Flicks. There's other off brands. I'm sure that they'll come to me, but
in 86 Topps, I mean, you were a Giants fan, but it's sort of foreshadowing was Bonds, right? That's his rookie year.
So Bonds was 86 Pirates,
Yep.
and so but Bonds didn't show up to San Francisco till 92.
I know he started, but I'm saying that year happened to be some Giants in your future.
It was really Giants. Giants was the whole thing. The Oakland A's, or I guess they're Sacramento A's now. I don't even know what they call them now.
Yeah.
But those were the big things, and then the Mets were big just because they were the big news. They won the World Series in '86. Miraculously, and so they had big names like Dwight Gooden, Lenny Dykstra, Jesse Orosco, all those guys. So I kind of have I have a very big connection to that 86 time frame.
That's really awesome. I love that. And it's cool that your parents were a part of it too. I grew up collecting same time frame and stuff. I probably got more into collecting a little bit into the 90s. So I was definitely more like the basketball and football. I had some baseball cards. I wasn't as big. Obviously, the 89, Griffey Upper Deck is like iconic for all of us still to this day. But like as a kid, that was like, I'm going to be rich. I've got my Griffey, junior rookie. But, my parents weren't as involved in my collecting. They thought it was cool, and sure, they'd take me around. But like, it was cool that your parents were sort of a part of that with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Mom was, so it really was more, believe it or not, it was more mom than dad.
Nice.
Mom was a coin collector, a stamp collector.
Okay.
I never understood all that stuff, but I would help her with her hobbies. And then once we figured out baseball cards was a thing, then she started helping me there. Dad was the sports guy, and dad would drive us around, but it really was mom that was sitting down, and, we had our checklist piece of paper. Do we have this one? Do we have that one? Okay, let's go find this one and that one. And it really was a hunt. And coincidentally, and I still have very early memories. 87 was the one and only time the National showed up in the Moscone Center in San Francisco. Okay. So mom took me to that. That was the first card show. So
very cool.
Very, very OG story. And so cards was very, very near and dear to my heart, and growing up and growing up with my peers and my fellow, baseball card collectors back then. It really was a connection between mom, dad, and my whole environment.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Well, so let's fast forward to today. So tell me a little bit how the collection's evolved from the 86 Topps. What are you into these days?
It's funny. So moving forward from 86 into the 90s, like I was still collecting lots of stuff, got into basketball. Football just started to go up with Pro Set. I was getting into Fleer Ultra basketball, and then I started to go to high school at that point, right?
Yeah.
And I stopped chasing cards, cardboard, and I started chasing, girls and cars. And
I think it's a similar story for a lot of guys, though.
I look back and I'm grateful for those experiences. but I wish I chased more Kobe's and Steve Nash's instead of,
Yeah.
all the
Sally's and Susie's.
yes. So there was a long, call it long break. And I remember one of my college classmates, he never gave up. So good for him. And he would try to get me into the industry, in the early 2000s, but I never truly understood it, because the hopes and dreams and the riches, my retirement fund of Will Clark rookie cards of 87 tops just never panned out.
Yeah.
And so I'm questioning why get back into this. So fast forward, had a career, graduated college, had a career, stayed, computer programmer since the very, very beginning. And then the pandemic comes by and that hits the ultimate reset button for many of us. And I was talking with my college buddy, and he told me, you should take a look at this. You should take a look at the card industry. And, I had a hypothesis back then. This is 5 years ago. Like, could I use technology, to maybe find arbitrage or have competitive advantages against everybody else? So really in the 2021 timeframe, I was throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall. And I really was getting into cards. I was buying cards left and right. And those were good times to buy football. I have a lot of 2020 football cards.
Yep.
A lot of 2020 wax on this wall here, just chasing after that stuff, going into card breaks. The card break thing it blew my mind that I could just sit there without even having to go to the store, just buy packs, buy boxes and rip them.
Yep.
So to answer your question, it's a long-winded answer. I took a break, I came back, and really my personal collection has evolved into football, which is what I like. UFC, because I'm in Las Vegas, and that's just the thing to talk about here amongst my peers here. And surprisingly, I have bought probably the last 4 or 5 hobby boxes that I bought are Upper Deck golf boxes.
Oh, cool.
That's another another product of the pandemic that we had was cardboard, which I chased here, and then I started to become a serious golfer. Not very good, but at least
get out there and have fun with it. It is a almost impossible sport to master, so it's like, just get out there and enjoy being outside and walking or riding or whatever you do. So 100%. Good for you, man. That's awesome. That's really cool. It's interesting too. I had Paul Hickey on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about like good opportunities, potentially tennis and golf, and it was cool to hear those being brought up, because that's just sort of not normal, so it's cool to hear that you're into it too, because there's some really beautiful cards that Upper Deck makes and some really cool opportunities there.
100%. So like, it's not a big secret. I like golf. I feel like it's very undervalued, and there's people that are first-time winners on the PGA Tour that have great personalities, great YouTube personalities, and there are opportunities for upside.
Totally. I love that. Well, let's shift gears from the collecting mindset into the business mindset a little bit. I know you had mentioned that you sort of Silicon Valley guy, grew up with tech, that was sort of your career. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of those years leading up to starting Waxstat?
100%. Yeah. So like I said before, my parents handed me 2 things. They handed me a computer and a box of cards and said, go figure it out. Right.
Yep.
There's probably a little more to that. I've always been a fan of startups, right? Like the entrepreneurship mindset, right? Like I feel like starting from zero and getting to, in my case, anything above zero, there's something very rewarding, something, and so I graduated college, and I went into Silicon Valley with this open mind, started joining startups. When you're a startup, you are the coder, you are the IT guy, you are the dude that orders pizza, the guy that does this and this and this. It's all hands on deck, and you wear multiple hats, and I really enjoyed it. But it's very, very rewarding when you saw this blank canvas and you made something from this blank canvas to something, right?
Yep.
And I did that, and to some degree, I was very, very successful doing that. There is the Silicon Valley startup dream. So I went through a few companies there, exited those companies into acquisitions. But I was a rank and file soldier. I was an early employee, and probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I scratched my head and I said, "Hey, you know what? You have all the lessons. You figured it out, or you at least have a guidebook to creating your own company.
Mm-hmm.
Take of faith, figure it out, right? Like, worst thing you can do is you'll end up just moving back home with mom and dad and go get a job at a big company."
Yep.
And so about 10, 15 years ago, actually about 2012, me and a few business partners, I was very passionate at the time, and still am, travel. So I started a company. It's called Just College, and we went into college groups. We went to colleges actually, and went to the social groups like sororities, fraternities, clubs, and we made it super easy through technology to help them plan, book, and organize their next trip, like spring break.
Yeah, totally.
It's very, very simple for you and me, maybe a small family, to plan a trip for 4 people, right?
Yep.
Just get the credit card out, go to the website. But when you have to book a trip for 100, 200, 500, 1,000 people, you could only take so much risk as the organizer, putting on dad's credit card and trying to get you and your 50 buddies to spring break. And then before you know it, half of the people bailed out,
Totally.
right? And you are on the hook. So I use technology to make that simple process, that simple problem, even I solved it with a very, very simple solution.
Okay.
And that was very, very successful. We sold that company a few years back, and just before the pandemic. And then that brought me into really this chapter of my life.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, obviously to where you are today, and I'll ask you about that here in a second, having that experience. So like you said, you gained valuable experience being the all hands on desk sort of grunt work, right? For lack of a better word, you learned the foundation, you put that to use, you had a successful exit, and now you're here today. So can you tell us sort of what was that aha moment that led you to building Waxstat?
Yeah. So like I said, I kind of got into this during the pandemic phase, right? And at the time, I was just throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall. Really, the first hypothesis, as I mentioned, was, could I use technology to find a competitive advantage in cards?
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know at the time there were other competitors out there like Card Ladder, Market Movers, and so forth, right?
Sure.
And so, and I realized that problem was extremely difficult. Version 2, which really was about 5 or 6 days after version 1, was, like I said before, I was very fascinated by card breaks, and card breaks at the time were gravitating towards these early products such as Loop, Whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
Drip. And I interviewed, probably about 10, 20, 50 different breakers and buyers of breaks. And I asked them what were some of their bigger problems. And one was the fees were super expensive. But two, it really was, hey, we have this huge audience, but we don't have a way to call it do-it-yourself card breaks, right? Just being able to do simple things such as claim a slot or make payments. Really, you were forced to use these marketplaces because those were the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I made a do-it-yourself card breaking software. That really was my true foray into this whole industry. I did actually, surprisingly, it still is running. There's a small cult following, but what I didn't have really after about a year of working on it was product market fit. And you really need to have the product and the market to be aligned in order for it to be successful. So, I'm scratching my head. I put on a lot of work, and I'm just like, okay, you know what? No big deal. You either win or you learn. In this case, I didn't necessarily win, but I learned a lot. And I made a lot of valuable connections. And then somebody actually proposed to me like, hey, I love what you're doing with this card breaking, do it yourself, call it do it yourself card breaking software. But the reality was, like, I need something even more simpler than that. What I would love to do is take this box of NBA hoops or football optic and could I compare the price of this hobby box changes so fast. Is there a way that I could just on one website see the prices of Blowout, Steel City, Dave and Adams? I call them the big three because they're the most popular names. And at least I, meaning that person, can have a good real-time market pulse of the pricing of a box. Like single cards, the wax boxes are tradable assets, and they move just as quickly as the price moves on a single card. And when he proposed this simple question, this simple solution of one screen, three prices, I was like, that seems pretty cool. Could I create a simple dude? I love simplicity. And then I took that little thing and I went to my mom, because my mom and dad, mostly my mom, because my mom's a pretty simple person. I went to my mom and I usually pitch my mom my crazy ideas. And I told her about the card break. She still doesn't know what that is. Number two, and I go, hey, what if I did a price comparison? She goes, oh yeah, like if you have Target and Walmart. And I'm like, once she started talking, I was like, okay, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
Like she's the validator of all my ideas.
Love that.
And so mom put the stamp of approval, still not knowing what cards are to the degree that we're doing here. And so I started off in 2022, the fall of 2022, with this new blank canvas. And I just started importing data and putting it in a nice, usable, readable format. And little did I know that no one had that type of tool. Two, no one bothered to track this data and record this data, and so it turned into a very, very valuable resource that has morphed and changed and iterated over really almost 3 years now.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. So, I want to get more into the product itself, but you had mentioned the data import. And so I'm just curious to, a lot of people ask, well, how do you get that? Or sort of, how do you compile all this? Can you tell us, without giving away any trade secrets or something, Al, but like sort of explain to the audience what you're doing when you're saying, hey, I'm giving you these prices and stuff. Is it just from those big three? Is it other resources? Sort of talk us through that process.
Very good question. So on any given week, there is anywhere between 50 to 100 different products. Usually there are main products from the big companies like Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf. But then there's all the sub products of different box types: hobby boxes, blaster boxes, mega boxes.
Yep.
And so there is just a ton of different products that come out there. Now I mentioned the big three, but there really is an infinite number of, maybe not infinite. There's a lot of different retailers, because as Panini, Upper Deck, Topps, Fanatics, they start using these sale channels. They give guidance to these shops, and they say, hey, they give guidance to some degree, but the reality is that these shops determine the market pulse on their own, and so they'll price it based off of their gut or what they've seen in the past. And so these prices come out. It is really the wild, wild west. I'm not an economics major. I didn't study economics to an expert level, but people, the companies, the retailers put out the prices, and you start seeing other companies start either reacting to that price, or not either. They react to that price. Whether they believe it's too low, too high, or just right. And so they will price their products accordingly. Wax comes out every week, and it is probably one of the biggest revenue drivers for shops to be able to make sure that they get their margins and get people into the door based off of the newest product. So to answer your question, where do I get the information? There's a lot of public information on the internet. I take all that information that's widely available and I record it into my central database. And right now I support over 25 different retailers. And it does two things for the retailers. One is that I show the prices of the publicly prices that are already out there, but it helps these retailers quickly see, am I priced right? How am I priced against the big distributors or the big retailers and small retailers, and just give you that nice piece of information so they can make the correct decisions to make sure that their profit margins are where they expect or forecast it to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so just again, to clarify, so, you have a variety of different, like you said, retailers that you're providing along with the big three. Are you also using data from marketplaces like eBay or even like the live selling platforms, like you mentioned, Whatnot, things? Are any of that included?
So I do have some eBay stuff. So
Okay.
the way Wax works is slightly different than, let's say, the singles card market, right? Like the single cards really is the comps, the price comps are determined based off of the last publicly available price, right? Now for Wax, it really is what am I relative to the maybe the MSRP or the manufacturer's suggested retail price. They have a lot of flexibility. Now keep in mind these stores are motivated to sell the wax because they have an allocation each and every single week, and they are motivated to get as large of a profit margin as possible on any given week, because as the product ages the price tends to go down, because that is so the stores are not necessarily as tied to what is the last eBay comp. So data like eBay, data from the marketplaces like Golden auction houses, it doesn't matter as much. It really matters how is my price reflective against my peers, because they all, while there's no collusion from what I
Mhm.
understand, they all are motivated to sell the box as high as possible so
Sure.
that they can make their margins. Now,
Yep.
yeah, so that's basically what their mentality is. So I do have eBay data. I don't have marketplace data from live shopping places. At least not yet.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, listen, I think all of those are going to have to play into it at some point, right? And I know that that's stuff that's in the works, but it's just fascinating to me, and it's interesting too because obviously I've been in the hobby for a while. I collect this stuff. I'm not as big of a collector on wax though, so this is sort of fascinating to me, and I appreciate you educating myself and the audience on a lot of the intricacies of the wax stuff. So one of the things that you've mentioned, and I'm curious from your business standpoint, you talk a lot about the retailers and comparing and contrasting. So obviously they're a client. How much of your sort of what's your client split between an end consumer being me, who wants to just buy something versus those retailers? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Really good question. So what I have here at Waxstat in the from the Silicon Valley perspective is what you call a SaaS enabled marketplace. SaaS being software as a service, and which leads into a marketplace. My mantra is always come for the tool, stay for the network. So at the very, very beginning, I have to educate people as to what Waxstat is, why it's important to them. And I told them my value propositions, and they still are today, but at the very beginning is, as a retailer, can I save you time? Can I make you more money? Or can I save you from not losing money? Those really were the three strong, really, can I save you time? Can I make you more money? Are the strongest value propositions out there. And I told them, hey, I have all this great data. I can save you time because you don't have to make 25 different clicks to figure out what this Topps UFC royalty box is or this Donruss football optic box is. You can either scan using the app, you can scan a box and have instant prices, do your research, or get price alerts based off price movement. Now, at that point, it was very, very innovative. It still is. And I saved people time. I kept people from being really underpriced. That was really one of the bigger problems. It's when the market says $200 and my box is 150, they wake up the next morning, their whole entire online inventory is cleared out because they were clearly 25% below market rate, right? So that you can see where the value and the of my subscription or being a subscriber to my SaaS platform is important. And just recently, I took the SaaS platform, since I understand what customers have or retailers have, what their inventories are, what their stock allocations are. Now I'm helping them make money, which is my second value proposition. And with that said, I make it super easy for them for me with a white glove service. They don't ever have to do any listings. I list all their products online. So the way I make money, the way that I can put a roof over my head is that people pay me for the subscription service to get all this great, wonderful data. And number two, when they sell something on the Waxstat marketplace, then I get comp for that. So it's a very, very clear business model as how Waxstat works.
Yeah. And I just brought this up so some of the audience can sort of see some of this live, right? As you were talking about this, they can get a taste of sort of some variety of the partners, like you said, where you could buy stuff, some of the retailers that are showing, some of the graphs and charts. It's really incredible what you've done, Al, and how you've put this all together in a very, user-friendly a manner, right? Like that's easy to digest. Obviously I don't have, this is just my computer screen. I don't have the app set up to do that, but the app itself is really cool. So great job, man. There you go. You got it up behind you. Yes, you can see it there. So, I'm sort of curious that in addition to, like, from a product offering standpoint, you said you sort of have the marketplace, you have people who can sign up to get the pricing, but you also have some of these other really cool features, I think that, I'm calling them like widgets. You might have another name for them, but you have sort of like your top risers, your top fallers. You have a deal of the day. You have a deal o'clock, which on the app, it's like every hour. So can you sort of just talk us through maybe some of the more features and functionalities besides just the stats, if you will?
So like I said before, my core value propositions are, saving you time, making you more money. Yeah. And that really is for both sides, whether you're a seller or you're a buyer. I have the core data information. So a byproduct of being able to consume all this big data is that I see deals. I see shops that are underpriced, whether that's on purpose or by accident. And as a customer, as a free customer of Waxstat, which means anybody that downloads the Waxstat app on their iOS or Android phone, they can see my deals. And I have an automated process that if there's a deal out there, and it's usually about 10% or 10% or more off market price, and market price is just the aggregate average of what a given product is. And if it's 10% or below, then it goes on to deals o'clock. So when you fire up the app, you can quickly see, hey, this box is 15% below price, and there's usually only a handful of them. Sometimes people are just trying to clear them out. And what I've learned over time is that, yes, it's really nice and sexy for us to chase after the newest Prism box or the newest Optic box or the newest, top Series 1 box and cards in there. But the reality is that there is so much treasures to be found in these older boxes. There are still Ohtani autos in all these other products, Mahomes autos, Brady autos, game used memorabilia, all this stuff. And it really, it tends to be forgotten. So I put these deals o'clock on there to help the retailers move some of their products, but also provide value to the end users. The other things that have been coming out, the marketplace. What a lot of my users have is using the free Waxstat app is that we have a scanning ability. So there's a lot of people that will go into Target, Walmart, Myers, your grocery store, and they will scan the UPC barcodes to one, quickly get instant comps, but two, what I've seen is that people see arbitrage in there. So not to say, there's arguments about that, but you can quickly see, hey, I have this $25 blaster, but the market is $65. Maybe I should buy more than one of these and either, buy one to stock and buy one to open, right? There are, and those really for the consumer side are extremely, valuable. Just the instant gratification of instant data to make quick decisions.
Yep.
In this fast moving market.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, man. And I've been, using the app to check these out, and it's cool. Like, I mean, it's a variety of stuff. It's not, as Al said, it's, maybe there's Pokemon, maybe there's baseball, maybe there's it's across the board, but, talk about easy use, just be like, oh, just open it up and see if it's a good deal. And if I'm interested, click buy. Like, it doesn't get much more easy than that. The other thing, but like you said about the arbitrage and things like that, my son is trying to, become a little entrepreneur and flipper a little bit more. And so Pokemon is just everywhere, right? And he's always trying to hit the restock, so he could get a couple boxes to go flip them. So I'm sort of curious with that sort of trend of TCG and Pokemon being so hot. Like, what are you seeing on your end from the data side? And does that tell you that this is sustainable, or is this something that you think is sort of flash in the pan? Because it's been just on fire.
You know what? So I was just at a card show this past weekend, and the dealers who I traditionally see come in with sports cars and have cases full of sports cards, they are changing their real estate on their table to incorporate more Pokemon TCG, which is, it's not a bad decision. So Pokemon is hot. And I started seeing the trend really a few months ago, a few quarters ago, and it's not really even just the rising prices because the prices, the supply demand, price will go up as supply goes down, right? As demand goes up, price goes up, right? Now, one of the other factors that I traditionally look at that some people may not look at is how often are these retailers sold out, right? That is a big indicator of, hey, this product is hot, especially the new stuff. This product is hot. They can't keep up with the demand. So whatever they listed previously, call it $100, there's a good chance that they're going to restock and it's going to go up to $150, right? So with that small data point that you can use, it's like, hey, maybe you should be stop looking for stuff that is in stock at a high price. Start looking for stuff that's out of stock and try to use all your creative ways to find those boxes, because there's a good chance that once the influencers, I don't want to say influencers, the market movers go out there, they're going to raise the price to $150. That gives you the green light to go find it, buy it, and flip it wherever you need to flip it. Like, we're here to a lot of people are here to make a buck. Your son's here to make a buck, but those are good indicators to look at, not just the price.
No, that's great. That's a good tip. And I mean, to your point, like everywhere we go, Pokemon sold out, and listen, he's not just he enjoys ripping packs and collecting it too, but it's like, it's like just trying. I think one of the cool things about the collectible space in general is that it's people of all ages, it's people of all walks of life, and it teaches, especially the younger generation, some really good business skills, whether it's negotiating face-to-face with people, whether it's learning how to, buy something low and sell it a little bit higher. That might only be a couple bucks in some deals, but still the gratification that a 10, 13-year-old kid gets out of being able to make money for the first time is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, my whole thing has been, you either win or you learn, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing one or the other, you're in a good spot.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, speaking of rising, the platform has been doing really well, obviously, with Waxstat, Al. So, I'm curious, can you sort of talk to us a little bit about what you think has helped work best for you in terms of strategies to grow?
That's a good question. I mean, these are all really, really good questions. So one, I think one of my biggest problems at the beginning was education, right? Like back in 2022, the concept of why should I use you? Why should I arguably pay for you when I could just make 3 clicks of the button and on the website and figure that out. So it takes an entrepreneur mindset to be able to take what once was free and package it up and provide value. Like I said before, my value propositions are to save you time, make you more money. So I went after the businesses. While I believe the consumer side of the end users are very, very important, businesses are strapped for time, and they are constantly looking for ways to take that profit margin and grow it bigger, right? Find new channels of sales, right? But they really are strapped for time. So the fact that I can provide an affordable service to suit their needs, to save them time, that was very tricky at the beginning, but eventually over time, people realize, wow, this guy really is saving me more time, so I can go spend time with my family, or I can go find new business opportunities instead of sitting on Google all day trying to figure out the pricing. I think that was one of the biggest lessons learned, is just education, trying to identify those core value propositions, and then learning from my paying users. Those are the most important ones, because it's easy for ideas are a dime a dozen. I'm traditionally an open book when it comes to ideas. But the reality is that it's very important, to listen to my customers, really drill down, find out what their core problems are, and create very, very simple solutions to what they're trying to accomplish. I think the art really is not necessarily building this grand thing. It really is trying to figure out, how can I present this solution in the most simplest way. And there's a lot of art and a lot of really blood, sweat, and tears trying to figure that out.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like over the past, 2 to 3 years, I've been able to, find these problems and create these simple solutions and really have this closed feedback loop with my customers to understand where their problems are and how I'm providing value to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so important, right? Like being agile and having that, like you said, that constant feedback loop, you're going to get, we always build with like one idea in our mind, but what that actually means to somebody else can be totally different, so having that flexibility is really huge and great. So, I guess I'm curious though, in addition to building the platform itself, as far as growth, has it been going to shows and doing in-person stuff? Has it been social media? Is it a combination of all? Like sort of what are the tactics, if you will, that you found have helped?
It's funny because this is a really fun industry, right? And trying to get somebody to download a new app or trying to get somebody to visit a new website and having them come back to use the app and come back to the website has proven to be a very tricky thing to do, right? And I've seen tech companies in our industry come and go because they weren't able to solve that big hump, right? I think in order to be successful, at least in the technological world of the hobby, you have to do everything. And you really have to do like boots on the ground, right? Going to card shows and trying to get users, educating the users. Why should I do this, right? Why should I do that? Why should I download this? We really have only the capacity of so many websites that we go every day, so many apps that we go every day. So activating these users and then re-engaging them is very is a lot of work, but it's proven to me that's one of the better ways to get. You just have to get in front of their face. The most effective, most cost-effective way has just been it's been word of mouth. And the only way you can get word of mouth or positive word of mouth is to create the best damn product possible. And me and my team, we pride ourselves to making sure that we create a very, very useful product that makes sense and makes people save time and make more money. And as long as we stick to those core values, then word of mouth will organically spread the word. And then obviously going in and doing, having the opportunity to hang out with Zach on Hobby Hustle, that's really important. And boots on the ground and just really getting out there and showing the values to each and every individual collectors, especially in this niche market of wax.
Yeah. No, I love it. And it's always interesting and intriguing to me, as an entrepreneur, like just learning about, what's worked for each business. Cause like you said, they're very different, right? And like what works for Allan Waxstat might not work for Jeff and Market Movers or Chris and Card Ladder or whatever that might be. So I just always enjoy hearing that. And I think it's helpful for the audience. So, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Al, but one of the things that you brought up, you already talked about challenges in user acquisition, right? And getting the stickiness. Has there been any other sort of challenges to get off the ground, or is that really just the pain point? Like you said, you've listened to customers, you've built a great platform, and it's just continuing to grow, or have you faced some other hurdles, and sort of how have you overcome those?
Oh, wow. I mean, you want to start with pain points. Oh, we got a lot of pain points. I mean, it's being an entrepreneur is never linear, right?
Yeah.
It's never start and then you have a clear vision and then the end, right? Like I said before, my story started here, right? Then it did all this weird stuff. I'm here, right? Like I'm gonna get to here, whatever this would be, right?
Right.
And it's gonna be like this, right? Yep. There are days where this is, it's on the up, it's positive, and then there are days where you take 10 steps backward and you're like, WTF, what are we doing here, right? Yeah. So I don't know where I was getting with that, but basically there is a lot of work, being an entrepreneur. For those that are listening, one, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have that mindset that you want to change the industry, or you want to disrupt the industry in a good way, provide value to your fellow collectors and hobbyists or shops, one, just do it, because what you decide to do today is nowhere going to be close to what you're going to end up being at. As long as, if you keep on going down this path, it's a series of of testing and iterating. What's the term? It's build, learn, iterate. I build it. Did I hit it? Nope. I got to learn. Why did I not hit, what my hypothesis was? So I got to iterate. And so these constant feedback loops are just going over and over and over again. And there are some days that, like I said, like you have this big smile on your face and you're just like, I got it figured out. And then the next day reality hits and you're like, wow, right? Like what happened there? So
Yeah.
I feel like we're in a position in this industry where it still is the wild, wild west. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year collectibles industry, and it's the wild, wild west. There is so much opportunity. Every single day, there's new opportunities, right? I wish I can clone myself a million different ways, right?
Well, pretty soon with AI, you might be able to.
You might be able to, right? That's whether that's good or bad, right? Like with AI. But I do know that there's tremendous opportunities out there. You just have to go out and try, and you have to not be fearful of falling flat on your face, because I have news for you. You're going to fall flat on your face a lot. And it really comes down to, as long as you show up to work every day, as long as you keep on trying, as long as you're accepting that failure is just a stumbling block, right? It's just a part of success, right? You can change this industry. You can change your little niche. You can change what you want to do. So just get out there and do it. And I'm so proud of all the entrepreneurs in this industry that have made something of themselves. I'm very blessed to be a part of this fraternity here of entrepreneurs in the hobby.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I love it. It's a great space, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here, and many successful. And like you said, some have come and gone, but it's all part of that journey. So you mentioned though that there's tons of opportunities and things like that, and that you're always willing to learn and iterate on what you're building. So could you maybe just talk to us a little bit about what your goals for Waxstat are over the next 12 to 24 months?
I think there's a lot of things that I need to do for Waxstat. I think, I started off really with the sports minded set, right? So I think I'm very, very strong with the sports industry, Panini Topps, Upper Deck, Leaf. But the reality is that cardboard is not exclusive to sports. It's TCG, it's pop culture. So I want to get stronger into those positions. I scan over 18,000 different products every single day. And I'm sure there's way more than that, especially in the TCG world. So you can scan your Pokemon, you can scan your One Piece, you can look up your Magic. I want to get absolutely stronger with that. I just launched my marketplace less than 2 months ago. So starting a marketplace, we all are on eBay, buying and selling on eBay. We take all those little things for granted. Shipping labels, right? Feedback, customer service. So those are the user enhancements that I want to be able to build on. So when so-and-so sells a hobby box of Upper Deck Golf, I want them to click one button, it prints the label, the tracking number gets to the user. So all these little steps are extremely important to having a strong ecosystem in the wax box market. And data, I think data really is our core value, and I want to be able to extrapolate on that. I've read Moneyball a bunch of times. I've watched a movie probably more times than that. And data analytics and big data is very, very important. And when you say opportunities, like I said, there are opportunities to use Waxstat data to one, build your business, build anybody's business, build, it's there, you can never be too smart in data. And so when I say opportunities, you can take this data and do something even bigger. And like I'm exploring different partnership opportunities with all that, but there really is so much opportunity in this industry that I want to just, I wish I can really clone myself and just on all this stuff. And I wish there were more than 24 hours in a day, because every single day I'm really up or down. I'm excited to get up and build something and do something. And I don't take that for granted. Well,
that's what it's all about, man. Right? Like if you wake up and you're not excited about whatever it is, like what's the point? So it's good to hear that not only are you having success with it, but you're enjoying it for the most part. The bumps in the road are going to come and go, but that's really cool, Al. I love that. That's awesome. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, and I appreciate you taking time to talk with us. But before we wrap up, I like to ask everybody, and I know that you've given us some really good advice, so maybe it's the same thing again, but do you sort of have a golden rule or one piece of advice that you would give aspiring entrepreneurs?
That's a really good question. What's one piece of advice? You know what? Check your ego at the door. Be willing to be open-minded, be willing to learn. I think sometimes I ask a lot of questions where I think I know the answer, but I want to hear other people's opportunities. This is an interesting industry to be an entrepreneur. Many of us are entrepreneurs in our own degree here, but I believe ego has cost a lot of opportunities. I believe ego has lost people a lot of money, and present company, personally included.
Yeah.
I do my best to check my ego at the door. I'm not bigger than you. I'm not the best. I'm still climbing that mountain. But I know as long as I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to have an open mind, then I have unlimited opportunities, and the ball is always going to be in my court. But the moment my ego goes up, my head gets too big into opportunity, my emotions get the best of me, then I know I've already lost. And I try to prevent those, as soon as possible.
Yeah. I think that is amazing advice. And hopefully some people will take that to heart because, I've experienced myself, like I said, I think we're all guilty of it, right? You try to be as neutral as possible and try to come in things with a clear head and an even keel attitude. But sometimes you let that get the best of you. But if you can keep it consistently, in check, like you said, open yourself up for those opportunities and be willing to listen and be willing to take criticism, right? I think that's also a huge part of the ego thing is just accepting criticism for what it is like, hey, from my perspective, whoever that might be, telling you, here's what I do or don't like, take it for what it's worth, and try to reflect upon that. So that's amazing advice, Al. I really like that. So, hey, obviously some people are listening, some people are watching. For the people who have been watching, I've been flashing a banner across so that they can find out where you're available. But for the people listening, will you sort of let them know where they can find you at online?
Absolutely. I'm hopefully the easiest person to get a hold of. Definitely check us out at waxstat.com. You can download Waxstat on the Apple iOS store or the Google Play Store, or you can follow me on Instagram at Waxstat Official. And you shoot me a text, shoot me a message, shoot me a DM, and I'm happy to extrapolate on everything or anything that I have talked about or not talked about. I'm an open book.
And if it hasn't come across, guys, in this interview, Al's an awesome dude, and he's at a lot of shows. So if you see him, do not hesitate to go up and start the conversation. I've bumped into him at a couple different shows, and we always have great conversations. So, Al, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to come on here, talk to me, talk to the audience. You have an awesome story, and you've built a really impressive brand. So thank you for taking time. I wish you nothing but the best, and I'm excited to hopefully see you in person soon at a different show.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Hobby Hustle. I appreciate your time today. Thank
awesome, man. We'll talk to you soon. Al, be well. Everybody, a huge thank you to you watching and listening. I appreciate your time, and I hope that you found some inspiration or learned something new. If you enjoyed the show, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, follow, and most importantly, share with your friends. And that support keeps Hobby Hustle community growing. And remember, keep collecting, keep hustling, and I'll see you next week on Hobby Hustle, where passion, collecting, and business collide. Thanks so much.
Hobby Hustle is brought to you by Collector Creative. If you're a collectible brand or company looking for help with marketing, branding, design, or development, head over to collectorcreative.com and drop Zach a line. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at collector_creative. And be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time on Hobby Hustle, where collecting passion and business collide.